Action.
Hi, I'm Black Dragon, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Black Dragon Biker TV. And as always, we thank you all for tuning in from wherever it is that you happen to be in the world. Today's video is inspired by the federal court system in which a federal court case targets the mighty Mongols Motorcycle Club Nation's colors. The feds have called the Mongols MC Nation the most violent and dangerous biker gang in the country. And they're trying for perhaps the third or fourth time to employ an unusual legal maneuver designed to dismantle them and strip them of their trademarked patches that are prized by members and some say feared by rivals. A racketeering trial began in Santa Ana, California last week. Opening arguments were held Wednesday, in which prosecutors accused the Mongols MC Nation of operating as an organized criminal enterprise involved in murder, attempted murder, assault, drug dealing, and more. You heard me. They charged the entire Mongols MC Nation of operating as an organized criminal enterprise. And if prosecutors are successful, they will force the Mongols MC to forfeit any and all marks that include the organization's logo, the word Mongols, and a drawing of a Genghis Khan-styled rider on a chopper-styled motorcycle. Prosecutors contend in court papers that the caricature is serious business for the Mongols. They say higher-ups in the estimated 600-person gang will frequently bear patches that indicate that they are officers of the criminal enterprise, and that they earn those patches through violence and mayhem, prosecutors say. They also say that the Mongols gang is a violent drug trafficking organization that advocates and rewards its members and associates for committing violent crimes, including and specifically assaults and murders, on behalf of the gang, and in order to promote what the gang terms as respect, prosecutors wrote in one court filing. In 2005, the Mongols Motorcycle Club Nation became vulnerable to this legal line of attack when they registered their name and image as a trademark with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Unknown to the club at that time, 4 undercover agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms had infiltrated their beloved MC. In 2008, the U.S. Attorney's Office for California's Central District and then U.S. Attorney Thomas O'Brien issued between 79 and 110 arrest warrants in 4 states, accusing the club members of crimes ranging from murder, drug trafficking, extortion, and money laundering, to weapons trafficking, and more. And Thomas O'Brien went a step further and formally sought to take possession of the club's trademarked name and logo. This was an unusual and novel legal tactic, using trademark law to strike at the heart of what prosecutors called a notorious outlaw motorcycle gang, and federal civil asset forfeiture laws to take their colors. Civil asset forfeiture laws empower the government to seize assets from convicted criminals and from non-convicted criminals, regular persons like you and I. O'Brien said at the time, "If the court grants our request, then if any law enforcement officer sees a Mongol wearing his patch, he will be authorized to stop that gang member and literally take that jacket right off his back." according to a McClatchy report. It's not just stripping them of their identity or robbing them of a recruiting tool, it's taking the star off of their helmet, said a law enforcement source in Los Angeles. He went on to say, the logo itself furthers a criminal enterprise. And I want you guys to think about that for a minute. The logo itself furthers a criminal enterprise. Just the logo itself. Prosecutors eventually won convictions against all but 2 of the club's indicted members. And as part of a plea deal, the club forfeited rights to the Mongols MC Nation's trademarks to the Department of Justice. Federal Judge Florence Marie Cooper ruled that, upon presentation of the court's order by police, defendants, meaning the Mongols, and all their agents, servants, employees, family members, and other persons in active participation with the MC must surrender all products, clothing, vehicles, motorcycles, books, posters, merchandise, stationery, or any other materials bearing the Mongols trademark. So if I had a Mongol sticker on my bike, they could take it? Well, that's what the order said. At that time, only Uncle Sam was legally entitled to wear the Mongols' colors, or leather vest, or cut, which is a sleeveless jean jacket worn as a vest. A few years later, another judge partially lifted that injunction, and the initial trademark forfeiture effort was eventually rejected. The court found that the government couldn't seize the MC's name and insignia just because some of the club's members had been convicted of crimes. That makes sense. You can't take everybody's colors because a few folks committed a crime. The court went on to say, because the club itself had not been charged with any criminal conduct. The Justice Department was thereby ordered to pay $253,206 in the club's lawyers' fees to the attorneys who challenged the charges, and the Mongols MC Nation was handed a major victory. But in an attempt to sidestep that argument and confiscate the logo, still, federal prosecutors in 2013 then indicted the entire Mongols MC Nation, charging the club with racketeering conspiracy. The government further argued that displaying the Mongols MC Nation's colors alone is a threat of violence and intimidation to anyone in the MC world, thereby linking the actual colors to the criminal activity of the club. Going back to what that source said, the logo itself furthers the criminal enterprise. Let's look at that again. The government further argued that displaying the Mongols MC Nation's colors all by itself, just displaying the colors alone, just displaying the colors, just holding the colors up and displaying them, or wearing them on your back, just that action alone is a threat of violence. Seeing those colors is a threat of violence and intimidation to anyone in the MC world, thereby linking the actual colors to the criminal activity of the club. Linking the actual colors to the criminal activity of the club. Going back to what the source said, the logo itself furthers the criminal enterprise. That seems kind of absurd to me, but you can now understand the government's rationale in attempting to strip the MC of their colors. It argues that wearing the colors alone furthers the club's criminal enterprise, as the government maintains that the club is a distinct legal entity operating as a criminal enterprise. And a federal appeals court gave prosecutors the green light to try again with this argument, demonstrating that the courts will give the government an unlimited number of swings at bat, an unlimited number of prosecutions with unlimited resources to persecute and prosecute the Mongols MC Nation or anyone else which they have an axe to grind, until they can come up with something that they can throw against the wall and make it stick. Hence, you now see why newspapers and television reports and news reports all over the place call this an unusual legal tactic, an unusual legal maneuver, an end around. Because attacking a club's intellectual properties is something that's entirely new and hasn't been seen before. In fact, Donald Charles Davis, who blogs under the name The Aging Rebel, in an email interview with a reporter named Michael Doyle, said, "The majority of Mongols have no criminal record at all. The majority of Mongols have no criminal record at all and are not actually accused of anything except being Mongols. It would be both illegal and unfair to deny them their constitutional rights of assembly and free speech based on the Department of Justice's propaganda. The importance of the patch should not be underestimated," said Davis, author of The Aging Rebel, Dispatches from the Motorcycle Outlaw Frontier. "Men have literally died for those patches. They have great symbolic value to motorcycle club members in the same way that the American flag has great symbolic value to patriots," said Davis. If the Justice Department, in its latest proceedings, succeeds and wins the criminal case against the motorcycle club, the Mongols MC Nation's trademarks forfeiture issue comes roaring back into play. Opening arguments began last week for the expected 8-week-long trial. Prosecutors say they expect to call 96 witnesses detailing the gang's criminal history. Defense lawyers say the MC is simply a loose configuration of riders in the Southwest, not an organized criminal enterprise. They also maintain that the government doesn't have the right to seize the patches of members who haven't been involved in any criminal activity. Lawyers say that members have been kicked out of the motorcycle club for committing crimes in the past. Defense lawyers say they plan to call former Minnesota governor and Navy SEAL team member, ex-Navy SEAL team member, Jesse the Body Ventura, as an expert witness on the group and its history. Seems that Ventura was also a former professional wrestler and actor and governor and former ex-Navy SEAL team member, was also a member of the Mongols MC Nation in the 1970s. What on earth hasn't this guy done? So they're going to call him as an expert on the club. Defense lawyers also want to call famous journalist Lisa Ling, real cutie, who interviewed the group for a CNN documentary in 2015. You guys remember that. She embedded herself with the Mongols, went riding with them and all that, and got more access than any interviewer in the history of the world. She got more access than anyone else in her field to the Mongols MC Nation. And they want to interview her, and they want to her to testify about the organization and structure of the club, which she witnessed firsthand. But of course, the government has objected to both Jesse the Body Ventura, Governor Ventura, I might add, and Lisa Ling being called as witnesses, saying that neither is an expert. Though they are both experts in their respective field, Governor Ventura is an expert of many, many, many things, but the government has objected because they don't want you to come to court with a dream team. They want you to be there naked all by yourself. So the judge can deny those witnesses and then pull those feathers out of their cap. I guess that's all up to the judge, but it seems to me that those folks are definitely expert to what they witnessed as professional interviewees, and a governor, ex-Navy SEAL team member. Those are like the highest designations of person can have. The Mongols will probably mount a First Amendment defense, arguing in court papers that the government's sole purpose in filing the indictment against their colors is an attempt to crush the Mongols Motorcycle Club Nation by seizing the intellectual rights to the rider and Mongol marks, and thereby quash the club and its members' rights to freedom of expression and association, which are bedrocks of American democracy. Most specifically, the democracy and the Constitution of the United States of America. Davis, the aging rebel, said, all other clubs see this as just a first step as to what the government wants to do to all motorcycle clubs. They want to outlaw motorcycle clubs by taking their insignia away from them. To Davis, the Department of Justice's actions are unprecedented and unconstitutional. And that's what this court case is trying to do. This court case is trying to set a precedent. Unprecedented means it's never happened before. Precedent means, well, they did it over there, so we can do it over here. They're trying to establish that precedent so that they can use it against motorcycle clubs. Because right now it's unprecedented. And I believe unconstitutional. Man, I think that's tantamount to saying, you know what? Hey, you, Mr. Jones, 4 brothers in your family are serial rapists. We're going to outlaw your name. Well, I haven't committed any rapes. Doesn't matter. Your family is a criminal enterprise of rapists. And we're going to take away your name. And all clothing, rings, coat of arms. Coat of arms. Is it coat of arms or code of arms? I think it's, I don't know. You know, that thing you have. We're just getting rid of the name. Sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? Davis said the Mongols insignia is a collective membership mark that's on par with the Christian cross, the Masonic compass, or the Jewish star. Government lawyers disagree, claiming the motorcycle club constitutes an ongoing criminal enterprise, subject to the same statutes prosecutors use to dismantle organized crime families in the mafia. The Federal Racketeering, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, allows the government to seize cars, houses, boats, and any assets used to further illegal activity. In the Mongols' case, that includes their logo. If the logo itself promotes fear and intimidation, and the logo itself enables the gang, they call them, to break the law, then the logo itself helps the criminal enterprise further its criminal enterprise. So, if prosecutors prevail, the Mongols' name and image will belong solely to Uncle Sam. Violating such a trademark would be considered a civil violation. After the Mongols, sources say prosecutors would hope to use the same technique against other OMGs. If they succeed against the Mongols, sources believe prosecutors will hope to use the same techniques against other OMGs, outlaw motorcycle gangs as they call them, like the Hells Angels, the Outlaws in the Midwest, the Pagans in the East, the Banditos in Texas, and others like the Devil's Disciples, whom they filed a similar case against in 2012. Other motorcycle clubs thought of as so-called 99%ers or family clubs also wonder, when they get done going after the colors of the outlaws, how long before they come after ours? There are many 99% clubs that have been called gangs just for the actions of one or a few of their members. In fact, In a recent road rage case here in Atlanta, one motorcycle club member was charged for allegedly unloading his sidearm into another driver's truck. This was just a few days ago. I happen to know that MC. And they are no gang, they're not 1%ers, none of that. However, all news accounts call this 99%er motorcycle club a gang in every reference. In all the news stories, it was outlaw motorcycle gang, outlaw motorcycle gang. Not one time did the articles refer to the MC as anything other than an outlaw motorcycle gang.
Top story, a man is facing attempted murder charges after an altercation led to a shooting on I-20. NBC 10's Bria Jones spoke to an eyewitness at the scene of the alleged crime.
Pow, 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 pow. He unloaded whatever was in this clip.
An eyewitness account of the alleged road rage on I-20 Friday afternoon. He opted not to show his face in fear of retaliation from the motorcycle gang.
Completely stunned as to what had happened. It's something you see on TV. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. So I was just shocked.
He says he was driving down I-20 to pick up his kids when a biker gang came speeding through. Shortly after, that's when he says he saw a black pickup truck driving aggressively towards the bikers.
They were going real fast, the bikers were, and so was this black pickup truck. I mean, again, the way he was driving, I thought he had to be part of the biker gang.
But that wasn't the case. Lorenzo Stewart of Georgia was picked up in Ruston and brought back to Washington Parish. Deputies say he's the man that recklessly fired the shots, and after being just feet away from the gunfire, this driver says he's thankful no one was hit.
If he'd have shot him, fatally wounded him, that truck would have lost control, and it could have been a massive pileup. And the biker himself was behind the truck, so if he'd have lost control in front of him, he could have been killed in an accident.
Now, Stewart is being held at the Ouachita Correctional Center charged with attempted second-degree murder. His bond is set at $100,000.
They never even one time said the motorcycle club's name. Just the motorcycle gang. So once this precedent has been established, the precedent that the government can link a few bad actors of your MC to its colors as the furtherance of a criminal activity for the entire MC, as it is trying to do with the Mongols MC Nation and others, then the government can use controversial asset forfeiture laws to come after anyone's club and all the monies, motorcycles, clubhouses, etc., bearing that club's logo. And that is where the overreach and abuse begins. Conventional asset forfeiture is a popular tool for law enforcement. Assets more than $1.6 billion were taken from citizens and deposited in the Justice Department's Asset Forfeiture Fund during fiscal year 2015, according to the program's 2016 report. The seized property ran the gamut from a $1.3 million airplane taken in Denison, Texas, and $1.2 million in currency seized in Miami, to $11 million in Bitcoin, the online currency, seized in San Francisco. The bottom line is when the government is given certain tools, it becomes corrupt in its use of those tools to prosecute, and always eventually winds up overcharging or abusing its prosecutorial tools for expedience or for other reasons that are unfair to citizens. The Mongols have said a minority of its members have been charged with crimes, but they put criminals out. They also contend that asset seizure would violate their First Amendment rights of their members to proclaim their association with the MC by wearing its distinctive logo. And they believe it's a First Amendment right of speech and association to proclaim they are members and not be harassed or intimidated or outrageously charged just for saying that they are members of the motorcycle club in which they love. A number of organizations have sided with the Mongols in criticizing the case, including the libertarian Cato Institute, which has long condemned government use of forfeiture powers. Tim Lynch, a lawyer for that group, said prosecutors should focus on addressing the alleged illegal conduct of the Mongols members rather than going after the very lifestyle of this club. Motorcycles are a vital part of the organization, Mr. Lynch said. Can government pressure them into giving up their motorcycles and force them to ride in minicars? We wonder. Other biker experts said that if the government succeeded in seizing the Mongols logo, it could have a chilling effect on other motorcycle organizations. If anyone from another motorcycle club commits an illegal act, then the precedent is there, said William Delaney, a professor at Air University in Alabama and an expert on biker culture. That organization's colors could conceivably be confiscated by one or a few members or something like that commit a crime. The precedent is established, and here they come for your stuff. And you're not a 1% outlaw motorcycle gang. You're just somebody that somebody called a motorcycle gang. So why should you give a damn about what happens to the Mongols MC? They, after all, may be, in your opinion, an unsavory group. But the government often goes after unsavory groups first, my friends, opening the door, setting the precedent. And once that precedent has been set, then they do whatever they like to whomever they don't like. One such case was against an infamous pornographer, peddler, named, you may remember this, some of you might be too young, but Larry Flynt, who publishes Hustler magazine. He was arrested several times and spent months in jail for doing things with his magazine then that are commonplace today. On the internet, you can see these things and no one even gives it a second thought. Most of us look at it and just shake our heads. But when he was doing those things back during his time in the mid-70s, these things were outrageous. And he beat the government. One time when he beat a huge pandering charge, but let me say he didn't beat them easily. He did spend some time in jail. Some cases got overturned, but he did go to jail. He spent a little bit of time there, but eventually he won. One of the big pandering cases that he was able to beat, after that, he stated in a press conference in July 1976, and I quote, "We're the strongest country in the world today because we are the freest country in the world today. And I don't want any American anywhere to ever forget that the strength lies in our principle to be free. And I'll continue this fight," he says. "And people will accuse me of continuing it in the name of pornography. I continue it in the name of freedom." Freedom is an important concept in our country. It's a bedrock concept. It's a homestone. It's a cornerstone. It's a hearthstone. During Larry Flynt's case against now deceased Reverend Jerry Falwell, he was sued for libel. And these other newspapers knew that it was a bad thing. So these other newspapers that were upstanding news organizations that didn't have the filth of pornography on them knew that a successful attack against this unsavory publisher could spell doom for the freedom of the press if the precedent was established that Reverend Jerry Falwell wanted to have established. So these upstanding newspapers and publishers came to the aid of their brother unsavory publisher, as it was in the best interest of all publishers that Larry Flynt be found not guilty in the defamation suit Reverend Jerry Falwell was going to levy against him. They came to his magazine's aid and to his aid in the form of amici briefs, which are also known as friend of the court briefs, that are statements of fact written to aid one side or another. The amici briefs were written by these folks who joined the court to advocate on behalf of the unsavory publisher, Larry Flynt. Imagine this. These upstanding institutions stood up for Larry. The Richmond Times, the Law and Humanities Institute, the Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts Incorporated, the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, the American Civil Liberties Union Foundation, the ACLU, other Richmond newspapers, the American Editorial Cartoonist, the Association of American Publishers Incorporated, and last but not least, Home Box Office Incorporated, whom you know as HBO. Yes, even HBO. All came to the defense of the pornographer, Larry Flynt. And they won! And they won freedom of the press. The Mongols may seem like an unsavory lot to you, but you must understand their fight for freedom of association and freedom of speech and freedom of their intellectual properties is a battle that must be joined by us all. All American motorcycle clubs have a vested interest in even the most unsavory of us being as free as those of us who think we are so savory. Because if they can do those things to the Mongols, they can make you public enemy number one and do those things to your mighty motorcycle club nation. If individuals commit crimes, I believe they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, with the evidence that has been obtained to be used against them in the court of law. This is the American way. Holding others responsible for what others do. Holding everyone responsible for what a few do. Not taking on the burden of discovering the evidence and presenting it, trying to take a shortcut. These things are not the American way. And so, I don't like them. And you shouldn't either. The Mongols Nation may need your help. They may need some money. They may need some dollars. You might see some sort of pledges, request, or anything like that. I don't know that that's going to be something that they do, but they might. And if they do, we should stand ready to come and help. That's what bikers do. We never leave a biker stranded. It's just not in our culture. Well, I'd like to hear your opinions. Leave them down in the description below. Not the description, but rather in the comments below. And maybe I'll read some of them on our next video. Listen, if you haven't already purchased my books, Prospects Bible for Women's Motorcycle Clubs, the Public Relations Officer's Bible, and the Sergeant at Arms Bible, I encourage you to do so. You'll be able to find my books on Amazon as printed paperbacks, and you'll be able to find my books on Kindle as ebooks. And you can also go to places like Barnes & Noble, and you can order my books, and they will get them to you within a week or so. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks so much for tuning in and for hanging with me these last 2 years. We appreciate you all. Just say thanks for tuning in and get skinny.